The smoke hit the back of my throat like punishment. I hadn't had a cigarette in 4 years. Not since Ethan was born. But there I was, on the back porch of our Denver home, exhaling clouds into the dry spring air like it meant something. Like it would answer anything. It was late. Past midnight. The house behind me was dark except for the soft blue nightlight in the hallway. Ethan's door was closed. Sarah's too. I told her I couldn't sleep. She mumbled something and rolled over. I took another drag and pulled out my phone. Scrolling helped keep the thoughts from forming too clearly. I didn't want to think. I wanted to coast. That's when I saw it. A notification from Sarah's Instagram post 2 days ago, a snap of her hotel breakfast in San Diego. Black coffee, avocado toast, the caption, fuel for day 3. Standard stuff. But now, underneath, was a new comment. Fuel for more than just work, winky face. I froze. I tapped the profile at j.walker94. Private account. The tiny thumbnail showed some guy in sunglasses holding a surfboard. San Diego location tagged on nearly every post. I stared for a moment, pulse rising, not because of what I knew, but because of what I suspected. And I hated suspecting my own wife. I clicked back to her post. Looked again. This time, I zoomed in on the background of the breakfast photo. There, blurred behind the glass table, was the edge of a man's elbow. A tan jacket. A silver watch. It wasn't conclusive, but it didn't have to be. I'd seen that jacket on the chair in her suitcase last night. A gust of wind rolled over the yard and scattered the smoke from my lips. My stomach clenched. Was it him? I opened Facebook. Searched her tagged photos from the trip. Nothing. Then I tried her Venmo. Private. Of course. But her recent friends list. Public. And there he was, Jason W. I clicked. And there it was. His latest post, dated the same week, a hotel mirror selfie with the caption, SD grind. Nights are better than mornings. And in the reflection, faint but there, was the same hotel hallway Sarah had shown me in a video she'd sent to Ethan, the one where she said, "Look, baby. Mommy's hotel has a funny carpet." I turned off my phone. Suddenly, the air was too cold. Or maybe I was just shaking. I walked back inside, washed my hands, trying to scrub off the scent of tobacco and something else I couldn't name. I looked at myself in the mirror over the sink. I didn't look angry. I didn't even look surprised. I looked awake. And that was worse. When I climbed into bed, Sarah stirred. "You okay?" she asked, eyes still closed. "Yeah," I whispered. "Just couldn't sleep." She reached over, touched my wrist lightly, then pulled back. That was new. We used to fall asleep entangled, like we didn't know where one body ended and the other began. Lately, we slept on separate islands, hers with silence, mine with questions. As she drifted back to sleep, I stared at the ceiling. My mind didn't spiral. It calibrated. This wasn't rage. This wasn't heartbreak. It was something colder. Sharper. I was building a plan before I even knew I was doing it. Mentally cataloging what I saw, what I needed to verify, what I needed to prove. My therapist once said I process pain the way some people solve puzzles. Not all at once. Not emotionally. Piece by piece. And tonight, I just found the corner piece. We met on a Wednesday at a dive bar in Capitol Hill, the kind where the stools don't match and the jukebox skips every third track. Sarah had just started her new job at a marketing firm. I was fresh out of grad school, building software that no one had heard of yet. She was magnetic, funny in a sharp way, like she didn't waste jokes on people who didn't deserve them. That night, she talked about urban architecture, tequila, and how much she hated small talk. I was hooked by the time she dropped a napkin in my lap, by accident, and laughed when I flinched. We built our life piece by piece. First the apartment with the sagging floorboards and one stubborn heater. Then a house in a growing Denver neighborhood. We renovated the kitchen ourselves, late nights tearing out tile, Sarah in a ponytail with a paintbrush in her back pocket, music playing low on the Bluetooth speaker. Those are the memories I replay most. Not the wedding, not the big moments. The small ones. The grout on her cheek, the two of us laughing over a crooked cabinet. Then came Ethan. I didn't know I could love that hard until I held him. Sarah did too, at first, every coup, every photo, every inch of his life documented. She read all the parenting blogs, kept schedules like a machine. But somewhere after the first year, she changed. Slowly. Subtly. The enthusiasm in her voice started to feel like a performance. The camera roll shifted from baby pictures to work events. I told myself it was stress. I told myself she was just adjusting. I told myself a lot of things. The first red flag came last October. She came back from a short trip to Austin and left her suitcase in the hallway. I opened it to throw in a shirt I borrowed for a wedding, and found a crumpled receipt from a high-end cocktail lounge. There were 2 drinks ordered, same time stamp, but she'd said she had dinner alone that night in her hotel. I didn't confront her. Instead, I started remembering the other small lies. The late meetings. The dead batteries when I tried to call. The new lingerie I never saw her wear at home. The text she typed with her phone tilted away from me. One night in January, she mentioned a man from her San Diego conference. Jason, she said casually, when I asked who helped her fix the printer jam in the hotel's business center. Seemed nice. Reminded me of someone from college. She said it like she didn't mean anything by it. And maybe at the time, she didn't. But his name stuck in my head like a splinter. I started looking through our shared bank records when she was asleep. Travel transactions, Uber receipts, hotel incidentals. Most of them lined up. Some didn't. Then there was her photo library, which had started syncing to our home desktop again, accidentally, I think. I clicked through one evening while Ethan played with Legos beside me. I told myself I was just organizing. Just backing things up. But I wasn't. I was looking for cracks. There was a photo of her at a hotel bar, holding a menu in one hand, smiling at the camera. I recognized the bar, vaguely, it was in San Diego. But what struck me was the second glass across the table. Half full. Someone else had taken the picture. The timestamp was from the night she said she'd been exhausted and turned in early. That was the moment I stopped pretending. I kept everything. Screenshots. Copies of texts. Even forwarded myself some of the synced images. I made it all invisible to her, kept the files on a separate drive, locked behind a password she didn't know. At dinner one night, I brought up Jason again. What happened to that guy who fixed your printer? Jason. She barely looked up from her plate. Oh, him. I didn't really talk to him after that. I nodded. Filed the lie away. I spoke to my friend Luis next. He's a paralegal for a family law firm in Boulder. I asked him, hypothetically, what would you need to prove an affair during a marriage? He told me, consistency. Records. Photos. Statements. And if custody was at stake, anything that could indicate moral failure or neglect. From then on, I played my part. I kissed her goodbye in the mornings. Texted her things like, hope the meeting goes well, and love you. Be safe. I cooked. I took Ethan to soccer. I smiled at her friends when we saw them at birthdays. But at night, I worked. I logged hotel data, compared timelines, mapped travel overlaps. I even checked Jason's name against property records in San Diego and found that he lived 3 miles from the hotel she stayed in, both times. I didn't rage. I didn't cry. I simply noted. Stored. Labeled. One piece at a time. The last clue came in the form of a conversation I wasn't supposed to hear. Sarah on the phone in the kitchen, speaking low, thought I was in the shower. I only caught fragments. He was sweet about it. No, he doesn't suspect anything, not yet. She ended the call before I could catch more. But she didn't have to say his name. I knew. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I was in pain. Because I was preparing. The morning after I overheard her on the phone, I made 2 cups of coffee. One for Sarah, cream, no sugar, and one for me, black. I handed her the mug without a word, just like always. She thanked me with a peck on the cheek and turned back to her laptop, deep in something she didn't want me to see. I watched her for a long time that morning. Not in anger. In study. Like a detective learning the habits of a suspect. Then I opened a blank notebook and titled the first page, War Log. It was half joke, half promise. The next day, I called Luis again. This time, no hypotheticals. I need a referral, I told him. Not someone flashy. Someone good. He gave me the name of a family law attorney in Lodo, Vanessa Kane. I booked a consultation within the week and told Sarah I was having a networking lunch downtown. She didn't ask questions. She never did anymore. Vanessa's office smelled like sandalwood and printer toner. She had this calm, flinty way of talking that made you feel like you were already in court. You're not here to punish her, she said after I gave her the short version. You're here to protect yourself and your son. Stick to that mindset. It keeps the court on your side. We went over documentation protocols. What I had. What I needed. What crossed the line. What didn't. She advised me to install security, but legal, discreet. Only in common areas. Only for safety. That afternoon, I bought 2 small nanny cams from a specialty store in Englewood. One went in the hallway near the kitchen. The other in the living room, angled to cover the front door. I told Sarah I was being extra cautious after a neighbor's house had been robbed. She smiled and said, "Good thinking, honey." At night, I reviewed the footage. She never brought him over, not Jason. But I caught phone calls. Her face glowing in the dark as she whispered into her speaker, curled up on the couch while I slept. I didn't need to hear every word. Her smile told me enough. I began cataloging evidence. Exhibit A, hotel receipts from both San Diego trips. Exhibit B, the selfie Jason posted with Sarah in the background. Exhibit C, a voicemail she forgot to delete, Jason saying, "Miss you already." Exhibit D, credit card charges she never explained, flowers sent to him, not from him. Luis helped me notarize some documents and timestamps. We backed everything up to a secure drive I kept hidden in my office drawer. Meanwhile, I spoke with Dr. Leah Morton, a therapist I'd seen years ago after my mother died. I wasn't looking for comfort. I was looking for clarity. Am I wrong for planning this in silence? I asked her once. No, she said. You're grieving, just in a different language. Some people scream. You organize. That stuck with me. So I organized everything. I created a spreadsheet with names, dates, inconsistencies, and corroborating data. It felt less like obsession, more like insulation, building walls so I wouldn't collapse under the betrayal. Next, I drafted my custody proposal. I wanted primary physical custody of Ethan. Not because I wanted to punish her, but because I didn't trust her anymore. The hotel calls. The lies. The way she barely looked up when Ethan asked her to play. Vanessa said my case would be strong. Courts want consistency. And you've been the constant parent. To prepare, I began recording Ethan's daily routine. Every drop-off. Every lunch packed. Every school event I attended. I printed schedules, saved emails, even pulled screenshots of Ethan hugging me at his last soccer game while Sarah texted behind him. I also documented conversations with Sarah. Nothing dramatic, just moments that painted the quiet truth. Her checking out. Her detachment. The ashtray became my symbol. It sat on the deck table, cracked ceramic, a relic from our honeymoon in Prague. It had survived 3 moves, 2 seasons of heavy snow, and now, this war. I'd quit smoking when Ethan was born, but recently, I'd relit that part of me. Not as weakness. As ritual. Every night, after Ethan went to sleep, I'd smoke one cigarette beside that ashtray. Think. Observe. Plan. Sarah rarely joined me anymore. Occasionally, she'd poke her head out and say, "You all right out here?" "Fine," I'd answer, exhaling. One night, she said, "You've been quiet lately." I shrugged. Lot on my mind. She paused like she might push, but didn't. Because she didn't really want the truth. I started speaking with my father more often. He and my mom split when I was young, and I never asked for details. Now I understood why. He offered simple advice. "Be calm," he said. "Don't let her chaos infect you. That's the win." I took that to heart. I cleaned up the house. Fixed the garage door. Helped Ethan with his science fair volcano. I made my world stronger while hers quietly unraveled. I never lashed out. Never accused her directly. I just waited. Gathered. Built. The night before I filed, I stood at the back door, smoking, ashtray beside me, the city lights flickering low in the distance. Inside, Ethan was asleep. Sarah was in the bath, headphones in. I looked at our reflection in the window, myself clear and solitary. And her. Just a blur behind fogged glass. I tapped ash once, then stubbed the cigarette out hard. That was the last one. Because the war wasn't coming. It was already over. She was on her phone when I walked into the living room. Legs curled under her, glass of red wine on the armrest. The same scene I'd walked into 100 times. But tonight, everything was different. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice steady. She looked up, startled. "Hey. You okay? Can we talk?" Her eyes narrowed slightly. Not suspicion, just inconvenience. She set her phone face down. "Sure. What's up?" I sat across from her, the glass coffee table between us. Its surface was clean except for the old ashtray, our souvenir from Prague. She hated that I kept it there. I placed a small manila folder on the glass. Her eyes flicked down to it, then back up to me. She didn't reach for it. Not yet. "I know," I said calmly. "About Jason. About San Diego." She froze. It wasn't theatrical. No gasps. No hand over the mouth. Just an instant shift, from relaxed to rigid, like someone caught shoplifting. She started, but I raised a hand. "Don't lie. I have screenshots. Hotel receipts. Photos. Voicemails." She went pale. "How long?" I asked. She blinked. "What? How long have you been seeing him?" Silence. 8 months, she said finally. I nodded, once. "Thank you." She looked at the ashtray instead of me. "Were you ever going to tell me?" "I didn't know how," she said. "I didn't want to blow up everything." "You did anyway." She flinched. Then her voice hardened. "I didn't plan for this to happen." "I know. That's the problem." For a moment, the room buzzed with the quiet hum of the fridge in the kitchen and the low creak of the heating vents. Ordinary sounds. But everything else had shifted. "I've spoken to an attorney," I continued. "I'm filing. We'll work out custody, division of assets, all of it." Her mouth parted like she wanted to protest. But she didn't. "I want primary custody of Ethan," I said. "You can have every other weekend. Holidays, if we negotiate it." Her voice cracked. "You're taking him from me." "I'm protecting him from the version of you I don't recognize anymore." That hit harder than yelling ever could. She folded her arms, her nails digging into her sleeves. "I didn't mean to hurt you." "I know," I said. "But you did anyway." She reached for the folder, finally. Opened it. Flipped through the printed screenshots, her Instagram comment thread with Jason, the photo of her blurry in his mirror selfie, the voicemail transcription, the timeline chart. Each piece like a quiet slap. "You planned all this," she whispered. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. She looked up at me again, but this time I wasn't the same husband who used to chase her around the kitchen while dinner simmered. I wasn't the man who believed her excuses. I was someone else now. Someone she couldn't manipulate. "I'll cooperate," she said softly. "I know you will." I stood up and slid the folder toward her. "This isn't revenge, Sarah," I said. "It's accountability." I turned and walked toward the stairs. Paused at the foot. "One more thing." She looked up. "The ashtray. I'm throwing it out. You can take whatever else you want." And with that, I left her sitting at the glass table, surrounded by proof and silence. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday. No shouting, no drawn-out trial. Just 2 signatures in a quiet room. Sarah didn't contest custody. The folder had done its job. Ethan lives with me now. Full-time during school, alternating weekends with her. He's adjusting better than I expected. Kids sense tension before we even say the words. And once it's gone, they breathe easier, even if they don't understand why. The house feels different. Quieter, yes. But not empty. Peaceful. I donated the wine glasses. Repainted the bedroom. Moved the ashtray off the porch and smashed it in the garage with a hammer. One swing. That was enough. The ceramic split into 4 neat pieces, each one jagged and useless. I swept it up, bagged it, and took the trash out before breakfast. Symbolism doesn't always need an audience. My therapist, Leah, called it post-traumatic clarity. "You rebuilt instead of reacted," she said. "That's rare." I don't feel heroic. Just cleaner. I started jogging again. At first just around the block, then through Cheeseman Park, then into the foothills when time allowed. The rhythm of my breath, the beat of my shoes against the pavement, it gave me something Sarah never could in the end: honesty. Ethan and I created our own rituals. Pancakes on Saturdays. Stargazing from the deck. He asked once, "Why don't you and Mom live together anymore?" I paused. Then answered simply, "Sometimes people stop treating each other the way they should. And when that happens, it's better to give each other space to be better." He nodded, like he understood just enough. Sarah still calls. She shows up on time for her weekends. She brings back gifts from her new apartment: a painted rock, a stuffed dinosaur, a handmade card that says, "Love you always." I let Ethan decide what he wants to keep. As for Jason, I don't know if they're still together. I don't ask. I don't check. He belongs to a chapter I've already finished. Instead, I started writing. Nothing grand. Just blog entries on a site I titled after the break. Stories for people like me, husbands who stayed loyal, parents who showed up, men who didn't scream when their world burned but calmly found the fire extinguisher and rebuilt from the ash. I get messages now. From strangers. From other men who saw the signs late, or earlier than I did, or didn't know what to do when they caught their wife's phone lighting up at 1 a.m. with someone else's name. I tell them the truth: don't sink. Swim. Don't burn it all down. Build something better beside the rubble. Justice isn't always about courtrooms. Sometimes it's being the parent your child looks up to without fear. Sometimes it's being able to sleep without wondering who's lying beside you. Sometimes it's saying nothing when you could say everything. The quiet is what saved me. One morning last week, I found Ethan in the kitchen, pouring cereal into 2 bowls. "Made one for you," he said. I smiled. "Thanks, bud." We sat together at the table, sunlight spilling in, spoons clinking. Across the room, on the wall above the sink, hung a new photo, just the 2 of us at the park, arms wrapped, laughing. That used to be where our wedding picture hung. Now, this one felt more like home. And I didn't feel broken anymore. Just whole. Finally,